Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. Yeah, I know we'll have more people join as we go on, but we're going to start now because it's 2:17. Yeah, our speaker for today is Mr. Paul Barnabas. Yeah, and we're going through fabric analytics engineering. It's a Microsoft certification course, and DP600. Okay, please welcome Mr. Paul Barnabas. Can we have some emojis for him? Okay, you have the floor.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Franca.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever it is you're joining us, and welcome to this session. As we are aware, this session is running from last week, Monday, up to early August. It's running for 2 months, and within the 8 sessions that we'll be having, we'll be going through different sections and areas of the fabric analytic engineer certification preparation. In addition to that, we would be making this as much as possible practical. The idea is as you prepare, you join this class, you take part in the labs, you ask questions, you engage, you are preparing yourself to get certified at the end of the session. Also take note that there will be vouchers available. Links to that will be shared. And you can also ask questions in the Fabric community channel. So some of the resources we'll be using in the class will also be made available there with time, so we can leverage on them. As for the one we would use in the class today, this will be shared collaboratively within the Microsoft Teams chat interface. So one more time, welcome to this session. My name is Paul Barnabas. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I've been in the data and AI space for the last 14 years, and I've worked across data, BI, product management, project management, enterprise leadership, and so on and so forth. And you can always reach me out on LinkedIn or X, as the case may be. Let's proceed. So what we would be covering a bit today, as we have several sections in these exams, is to consider, firstly, what is fabric. So probably for some of us, the word fabric is new, and we are wondering, what is fabric? What is Microsoft Fabric? We would also get to understand what are lakehouses, how do we get started with lakehouses? We would also consider the term data flows, Gen 2, and then how can we use this tool to ingest data? We'll cover a bit of orchestration processes, and then our focus from next week will be centering on orchestration processes in Fabric. How do we create data factory pipelines, and then how to use Spark in Fabric. That'll be part of what we'll be considering next week. So take note that this course is centered around analytics engineering. I will still elaborate on this, but what we will try to do in the 8 weeks that we'll be considering, 7 weeks that we'll be considering this topic, is to see how we can build end-to-end analytics solutions on Microsoft Fabric. Okay, so to give a bit of context, Microsoft is very heavy on data. They've been for decades. Some decades ago, we had the advent of Microsoft SQL Server. We had the emergence of SQL Server Integration Services, SSIS, which is a tool used for integrating data. When I said integration, it simply means getting data from different sources. Then when the maturity came for putting data together, like trying to analyze data, trying to build models, right? Then they created SQL Server Analytic Services, right? Which is also has a bit of relationship or fix with Power Query within Power Excel or Power BI, right? A bit of those features of functionalities are interwoven. But on the enterprise level, we have the SSIS, we have the SSAS, then we also had the SSRS, which was for the reporting layer, SQL Server Reporting Server. Now, these solutions were used for a long time, and as there was a lot of maturity coming into the data space, they evolved. And in 2015, during the era of self-service capabilities, Power BI was born, right? So Power BI was created and it ushered in the modern self-service capabilities where you can leverage on Power Query, right, which is an add-on you typically see in Excel built into a standalone solution to extract data, to transform the data, and then load the data into the model, right? And once you have that, you can build your semantic models, your relationship, and so on and so forth. And then most importantly, build your reports. And these reports can be shared with individuals, can be collaborated on, can be used for further insights. That was the second wave of BI. Then the third generation or the third wave of business intelligence and data in Microsoft was the creation of Microsoft Fabric. So as Power BI became popular, so was solutions like Azure um, Data Fabric, no, Azure Warehouse. We also have some other Azure solutions, Azure Synapse, right? Azure Synapse, Azure Lake, and so on and so forth. All these were the enterprise solutions, cloud-based enterprise solutions that Microsoft had. But they all were different solutions. There was Power BI separately, there was Synapse separately, there was different of these solutions, Azure Database, all separate. And what has happened in the last couple of years is Microsoft have been able to unify all of these solutions together, right? It has been unified. So they brought Azure Synapse, Azure SQL Database, Azure Data Factory, Power BI, Data Flow, all of these different solutions was brought together under an umbrella called Microsoft Fabric. And with the creation of Microsoft Fabric, that also brought about the standardization of the tools within Microsoft Fabric to fall under different areas within data and BI. And that is what you are currently seeing on your screen. The different areas within Microsoft Fabric. And number one is Data Factory. I've been talking about Power Query. I've been talking about data integration. Data Factory is that tool within Fabric that you use for data integration, right? So it combines the features of Power Query and Azure Data Factory together. And then you can use this functionality within Fabric to ingest data and transform your data, right? Then we have the data engineering. And this is where, if you are conversant with the roles within data, we have roles like data engineering, data scientist, data analyst, right? Database administrator, all these are different roles within data, right? And BI or BI analyst, BI developer. So they have created it based on these different roles. So you can choose these roles or persona and work within them to achieve what it is you want to achieve. What it also does is that it creates the ability for separation of concerns. So you can provision access to a particular resource who probably falls under this role, assign what he needs to him, and is able to work confidently with these tools. Then we have the data warehouse, and this is bringing in the performance of Azure SQL, right? An industry-leading SQL performance, which can scale, right? That functionality is also available within Microsoft Fabric as data warehouse. So you can write your T-SQL against the database or the warehouse and get responses. You can interact, manipulate, and so on and so forth. Then we have the data science. The data science workload, this enables or give ability to work with Azure machine learning, work with the data science capabilities, train models, execute models, leverage on tools like Spark, right, within the Fabric environment to build models, train data, and do data science related activities. Then the next one is the real-time intelligence. Real-time intelligence. There are scenarios where data, right, are being streamed. We are probably, for example, a production factory that is churning out data on a per second basis. What is happening in that scenario is that data is being streamed and we are getting it on a real-time basis. And there are scenarios where the business needs to see the data real-time. That is when we use these real-time capabilities, these real-time intelligence features within Fabric to warehouse the data, interact, query the data, build query sets, and build event houses, most importantly also reports and dashboards based on the data coming from these resources. So this can work with large data sets, huge, vast data, and in real time, it's churning out, it's plotting the charts, giving you insights, giving you information, real time. And then lastly, we have Power BI, right? So Power BI it's been around, as I said, since 2015, and it served as the basis on which all of these other resources were built around. And it's the BI, the business intelligence capabilities within Microsoft Fabric, which helps make sense of the data. So you've ingested your data with Data Factory, you stored it in your data warehouse, you've used data engineering to build your pipelines, you've used Power BI to build semantic models and generate reports. Then at this point, you can make these reports available for business to make decisions. So those are the different features and the different workloads that we have within Microsoft Fabric. If there are any questions, please, I am currently not seeing the chat interface, so you can raise up or moderator, please, you can call my attention to it. This session is supposed to be a practical session. So when we get into the practical part of the session, we would engage more. But if there are any questions, you can always ask or drop a chat. Please confirm if I am audible and you are still hearing me.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you very much for that response. Thank you for that response. Okay, so we have talked about this top layer, these capabilities and workload. So there's also something that we need to understand. Remember, I used the word unification, a unified platform. And if you did not create a unification infrastructure, it will be difficult for all of these different workloads to work together or interact together. So all these capabilities are typically built on top one lake. So one lake is the storage layer, right, that sits on top of Microsoft Fabric, and all these workloads exist on top. So they're able to collaborate, share, set up permissions, roles, and so much can happen, right, within the environment because they are all interactive. Beyond that, also, there are areas where you can set up workspaces, which are just logical containers that you can use to group different workloads or artifacts that you create across these different solutions. And apart from that, also, so SaaS product experience, security and governance is key, compute and storage, and most importantly, business model. So you are getting all of these capabilities, in fact, including data management, data annotation, data quality, all of the data related, data management related requirements and BI requirements are featured, all right, within the Microsoft Fabric environment. So one copy is a key component of one lake that allows you to read data from a single copy into moving or duplicating data. What this simply means is that there are capabilities across this platform to ensure with just a single click or a single copy, you're able to replicate data. And once data is stored in one part within the environment, it can be reused. So you don't need to be copying data across board. You keep the data somewhere, you can leverage on shortcuts, leverage on links, to reference that data across the platform. So this is ensuring data unification, singularity of data. Data are not duplicated. We are not having versioning issues, right? Stale data. All of those things are already addressed with this technology and implementation. So yes, let's look at it. As I said earlier on that data teams are the bedrock, right, of Fabric. And the thought process has been to build these tools and workload around these teams. So the teams of data engineers will typically use things like data factory, data integration, data ingestion, data warehouse for storage, for T-SQL querying, right, for SQL analytics, the data engineering capabilities where you are able to build pipelines and so on and so forth and transform your data, and then real-time intelligence where you are making use of crystal query language, right, or the event house to store data, and then we are querying and we are getting access to real-time information. So all these capabilities are available within the data engineer team. As for the analytic engineers, which is our focus in this session, right, is we will be making use of data factory, Power BI, data engineering, and data warehouse. We'll touch base a bit around real-time intelligence so that we understand, because there could be one or two questions that might come out from there in the exams, but notwithstanding, when it comes to core tools that are being used by analytic engineers, they are centered around these four. So let's move on to the data scientists. We have the data science capabilities. We have the Azure ML, as ML means machine learning capabilities, right? All these are available within the data scientist team. And for the data analysts, Power BI is the primary tool. So you're able to use Power BI and Power BI, right, for ingesting of your data with Power Query, transforming it, you load it into your Power BI model, you build your report. So it's self-sufficient, as I said, it's self-sufficient from within the data analyst role. And then for decision makers, right, that's the business, leveraging on all of this, they're able to interact with the data that has been fine-tuned, processed, cleaned up, reported, and insights generated within the Microsoft Power BI interface or using Microsoft 365, right? So all these essentially are the different types of teams. Then we now have the data stewards, which is serving on an horizontal level, interacting with all of these teams, right? So data stewards can be the functional, the business people, right, who understand the business. They also understand data a bit, and they're able to interface with the data team. So how do we enable or use Microsoft Fabric? It's important for us to understand that. And that would also take us a bit into talking a bit about the licensing, So as I said, we had the Power BI license existing before. Then when Microsoft came on board, they defined new Microsoft Fabric licenses. So we would also see how they play side by side with each other. So a fabric must be enabled in your tenants, either a Fabric admin, which was formerly known as Power BI admin. So, they are tightly synced, right? So a Fabric admin can enable the Fabric the Fabric workload or tenants, right? They can enable it and ensure you as a user be able to use it. A Power Platform admin also can turn on Fabric capabilities within the environment or tenant, and then you can engage with it. And then we have the Microsoft 365 admin also has the ability to enable Fabric within your tenants. So workspaces must be assigned to the premium per capacity or the Fabric license mode. What this simply means is that um, before you can leverage on the capabilities of Fabric, right? The workspace, right? We will understand what workspace is. As I said, it's just a logical folder that is used to warehouse different resources, right? So the workspace needs to be assigned to a premium per capacity or the license mode. So before I go into how to get started, I would want us to take a look at the different types of licenses that we have. So, so we'll take a look at this Microsoft. Okay. Change this correctly. Okay, so as I said, the Power BI licenses had always existed since the creation of Power BI. And as you can see, these are the Power BI SKUs. SKUs means stock keeping units. It's just the different categorizations that we have for Power BI. We have the EM. EM means embedded model, right? We have the EM, we have the P1, the P2, and so on and so forth. So you can also refer to them as A1, right? So these are the different skills we have. And on these different skills, you can see the BI virtual course. So if you are on a EM2 or A2, you're currently using 2 vehicles, right? So you can scale up, scale down accordingly, right? Depending on your workload or the organization and the number of users, you can scale up and scale down. So what this in turn means on the Fabric side, this is the core Fabric setup, the core Fabric setup. So the F2, right? You don't have any, okay, we have the equivalent for F2 as 0.2 under Power BI. But what it means in terms of capacity units is 2. So we have 2 capacity units and it's equivalent to 0.25 Power BI vehicles. And we can see F4 is 4 CUs, 0.5, and so on and so forth. We'll probably be using a trial. So the trial is always built on the 64 CUs, right? Which is equivalent to 8 vehicles for Power BI. So these are the different pricing tiers and models of skills within Fabric in comparison with Power BI. So
okay, you have somebody has a question. Rashid, you have a question.
So I have a question, sir. So my question is that for Microsoft developer accounts, what category of capacity can we say they are operating from, sir?
Okay, that's a good question. So for those using the developer license, right, you would typically be making use of the trial, and the trial falls under this list as 64. So you can see 64 CUs, which is equivalent to 8 vehicles. So this is what we get provisioned when you are using the developer license or the trial version. I don't know if that
What
answers your question.
what of vehicles mean, sir?
Sorry?
This Power BI vehicles, what does it mean?
Okay. Okay. So it's compute rating is a number used to connote compute. So let me break it down. When we look at a computer, for example, a computer is made up of processor, right? The processor, either a CPU or a GPU, right, is measured in cores. So you will hear things like 2 cores, 4 cores. Those cores are the CPU rating, and they are also referred to as compute. So it means that is what gives the um, uh, the hardware or the machine that is running Fabric enough capabilities to run through all the requests, right? All the activities you'll be doing within that environment. So when you set up a Fabric capacity now, it's like you are setting up an online virtual machine, right? An online virtual machine. Within that machine, you would have storage, which is your hard disk, which can be SSD, so maybe it can be 500 gigabytes. That's one. You would have your memory. So the memory is the RAM, which is speaking to, the temporary memories. When you are doing a lot of work, some of the workloads will be using that memory to carry out those activities. Then there's now compute. So compute is the CPU, the thing responsible for running the processes. So the higher your processor, the more powerful that virtual machine is to be able to handle lots of workload. So the long and short is that the VCOS simply means compute storage, compute, right? So it's saying 8 VCOS of Power BI will be provisioned if you are using the trial. And in terms of Fabric rating, it uses 64 CUs, which is just the capacity unit. It's a rating known for Fabric.
So which simply means
So
that
does
all
that,
of us
yeah.
using simply means that all of us using Microsoft Fabric, we are not operating at the same capacity.
Yes, we are not. We are not. So
So
it depends on.
can you give me an example of an organization that is operating at 256 or 128 vehicles? Maybe one or two organizations
Okay.
that you think can operate at that level.
Okay. So I can probably guess. I cannot be sure because if I do not have access to their environment, it will be difficult for me to know exactly. But I can tell
Okay.
you for certain that big organizations, say, like in Microsoft now, for example, right, they own this. They could be running at this capacity because they will also want to test run. One. I know a lot of Fortune 500 companies in the United States make use of Microsoft. So depending on the workload, and the beauty about these things is that you can scale up, you can scale down, you can pause. So say this month, they could probably, because it's the start of the year, they are doing a lot of beginning of the year planning, a lot of things is happening, and maybe they have like 50,000 users, for example, right? To make the workload easy, not slow and burdensome, they could deploy this and say they move into Q2, the workload has reduced, we don't have a lot of people using it. It could scale down, right, to the this F1024. So they have that ability, right, to scale up and scale down accordingly. Right. So that's it. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you. You answered it very well, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, it's a pleasure. Okay, so do we have any other questions? Subin, please confirm if you can hear me. Or just with a thumbs up, you can just signify, let's know you're with us.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Okay, so we would proceed. We will proceed to what is a lake house. But before we do that, I want to ensure that we have set up our environment. So if you would not want to talk, you can just chat. Can you confirm if you currently have access to Microsoft Fabric environment, right? How did you access that? So I will drop some links. Let me just drop some links in the chat that you can use. So I'll drop some links there. Okay, do we have the chat interface enabled? Can we send any information across the call? Okay, so I'll just probably send this if I'm able to send it to you personally.
It says that the
Okay.
chat room is not available. Hello.
Okay, it's not available. Okay, okay, that's fine. So we will also just also leave that available. So I'll send it to you personally, the moderator, and then subsequently we have this shared on the. Okay, links are not accepted. Okay, that's fine. So we would have this distributed on the other channel, right? So, but you can go to app.fabric.microsoft.com. So just copy this and paste app.fabric.microsoft.com, and so I am currently logged in. I would explain for anybody who is joining us who do not have access to Fabric, because this is where we'll be spending our time over the next 7 weeks, right? So it's important that you have access to these environments. You are able to do some of the labs. You are able to play around with the data, come back and ask questions. So I'll also be dropping a link that shares how you can create a Microsoft Fabric trial account with your personal email. So the steps is simple. You with either your Outlook, your Gmail, or Yahoo Mail, right? And then with a phone number and a payment method for verification, they will take note. They will not charge you. They just only want to verify you. So you can go and apply, right, on Azure. So you click on portal.azure.com, right, and then try Azure for free. When you try Azure for free, they would ask you to provide your personal email to register. You will be prompted to complete the setup. You'll be verified, your emails will be verified, your phone number will be verified, and the payment method will be verified. Once all these are done, you will have access to Portal, to Azure Portal. And then Azure Portal looks like this. The URL is portal.azure.com. When you log into your instance, it will look something like this, right? So once you have access to Azure, then the next thing is to create a user in Microsoft Entra ID. So you search for Microsoft Entra ID, right? You would click on manage, you would create a new user, and you create the user with your personal email. So you set up the password and you complete the user creation process. So after the user is created, then you can copy your user principal name. This is what you would use. So let me just briefly show you how this looks like. So you can search for Microsoft when you log into the portal.azure.com. So Microsoft Entra ID. So you can see this is it. So you come down to manage, and then you see user. So at this point, you can see all the users. So in your case, you come and create new user. So you set up whatever user principal name. So say, for example, I want to set up one for Ade or John. So say John, right? So it's going to use the existing official domain URL, right, that has been linked to this account. And then you put in the name, so say John Doe. Then you either use the default or you put in your required password, right? And then you can check the next if you want to add more details, your first name, your last name, what type of user, member is fine. Yeah, so it's an optional. Go on to the assignment, it's fine if you don't have any, and then you can go ahead and you can create. So once you create, you have your user principal name. And what that looks like is something similar to this. So you can copy. So when you have created it, to app.fabric, right, .microsoft.com, and then you click on sign in. So as you can see, the instruction is here. So you go to the Fabric portal, sign in using your user principal name and password with the user you just created. Then create a 2FA, which is a good one to set up. The moment you set this up, you would be landed on this home page. So this is the experience you would see. This is the experience you see. So with this, you have officially created a Fabric instance. Okay. How do you get to know the type of access you have? So you can see, in your case, you might not see this, right? Because my tenant has a full license, but in your case, you might not see this. You might see Fabric and Power BI trial status enabled trial. I have 10 days left. On your end, you will see a button to activate, right? So you can click on activate trial, right? Fabric trial. And give or take, it will give you 60 days to explore. And it's renewable, right? So it means when the 60 days elapse, you can go ahead and initiate or reactivate the trial again. So that's how that works. So once you have a Fabric instance linked to your tenant, then you are set and good to go to explore Fabric. Take note that Fabric and Power BI, they are one and the same in a way in terms of the environment. So even if I go to app.powerbi.com, it will bring me to an experience similar to this. So you can either use app.powerbi.com or you can use this app Fabric the Microsoft.com. As you can even see, the logo, this is a Power BI logo. So yeah, typically one and the same. It's just you can access them through two different URLs. Do we have any questions at this point? Is there Any questions here before we move on to the core practical session? Open to taking questions. Okay. So in the absence of anyone, but please let's take note from next class, the expectation. So we would share all the required resources to ensure that we are able to set up your instances. You will also get access to the WhatsApp group in case you are having any challenges setting up. You can always drop your chats, drop your questions, your queries, drop it on the WhatsApp group, and then we will respond accordingly and provide guidance. So we would want this class to be practical. We'll be touching base on different things within the Microsoft Fabric experience. So we want people to make it a practical session. We want all participants to get hands-on. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. So this is the homepage of Microsoft Fabric, Power BI. You can see the recommended area. You can see recent activities of all the things that has been done. You can check on your favorites, if there are favorite items. If there are apps that have been created, you can switch in between these tabs to interact with them. You have a generic or an organization-wide create button that you can click on to create different artifacts as the case may be. If you can remember correctly, I was talking about OneLake serving as the foundation, the storage layer for all the different artifacts that we have within the Microsoft Fabric experience. And as you can see here, I clicked on the OneLake catalog. So catalog is just a name used within the data management ecosystem to identify the different artifacts that you have within your data estate. So within here, you can see items, ones you created by yourself, the ones that were endorsed, the ones that are favorites, and then you can interact with the different workspaces, right? So I will reiterate, workspace within the Fabric API environment is just a logical folder structure, right, that you can use to do different artifacts. So you can also, there's a dedicated button for that here, right? There's a dedicated button for it. If you click on this item, see workspaces, and then you get to see the different types of workspaces. Take note, in your own case, you would not see anything under all. These are all custom workspaces that I have created, but you would see my workspace. So every tenant comes with a default workspace called my workspace. So you need to watch out for that. So once you have your Fabric trial capacity enabled, then you would have the ability to creating a new workspace. So let's attempt that. Let's go ahead and create a new workspace for this class. So we'll call this C DP600. So that's the name of this workspace, right? So you have the ability to also add a description, right? Domain is just simply a type of categorization or tag that you can use to categorize or group your workspace or the artifacts within the workspace. So say this, for example, is a workspace we are creating for demo. We can go ahead and set up a domain for demo and map that accordingly. So when we need to see all artifacts that fall under the demo domain, we can use this tag to identify it accordingly. You can also upload images, right, for your workspace. Beyond that, by default, the person creating the workspace is the owner, but notwithstanding, you can go ahead and add additional users. So say you have another user in your organization. So I have an Amy, right? I can add that. I have an info, right? I can add those users within the workspace. Okay. Now, this is very, very important. And this is what I was talking about, right? Licensing. So we have different types of licenses within the Microsoft Power BI or Fabric environments. The number one is Power BI Pro. This has been existing from the launch of Power BI and is the default license that gives you the developer experience within Power BI or Microsoft Fabric, where you are able to create, can see all the different capabilities, right? You can collaborate on reports, dashboards, scorecards, and so on and so forth. And it's per user. So when you're initiating this, this is a license for a user, as the case may be. Sorry about that. Okay, let's move on. I just need to take out this. Okay, so we also have the Power BI Premium per user. So we had always had Power BI Premium. So it was Power BI Pro and Power BI Premium. Power BI Pro started is $20 per user, and Power BI Premium then used to start at $5,000 per capacity. Very expensive, very fixed and rigid. And over time, there was demand that users wanted some of the, especially the AI capabilities and advanced capabilities within Power BI Premium, right? But in this case, on an individual basis. So that brought about the Power BI Premium per user, PPU, meaning you can pay a substantial amount, as in it's under $30 or so, right? And you have the capabilities of Power BI Pro and Power BI Premium as a single user, right? So, and that gives you access to 1 gig of memory, the XML endpoints, right? It allows you to be able to programmatically make modifications to artifacts within Power BI, right? And some of the other advanced and AI capabilities. And then also, you now have 48 data refreshes per day compared to the 12 that you have within the Power BI Pro. So those are some of the advanced capabilities that you have within the Power BI Premium. Then we have Power BI Embedded. So this is more like a self-service capability licensing model, where as an independent software vendor, you can decide to build your own custom UI or interface or application, and then you are programmatically interfacing with your Power BI embedded capacity, right? So it means that the users will not be logging into app.powerbi.com. Instead, the application you've built becomes the interfacing application, right? Where you log in, you see the reports that has been provisioned to you. So the developer, right, does all the uploading and all of the necessary things at the back end here on Power BI. But your business users, because they do not get a pro license, right, are only able to interact with the data that you have within Power BI through the application. So that's another pricing model. So for some organizations who are not ready to go for Power BI embedded, right, or they don't also want to pay per user, they can lock down an embedded capacity, build a front-facing application, right, and then use that for consumption of reports. So that's what Power BI embedded is. Then Fabric is Fabric, right? If you go, so you can create a Fabric instance from within Azure, right? So how you get to do that, I'll just show you. So you can go ahead within portal.azure.com.
Sorry,
Yes.
Mr. Paul, please, can you go to the previous screen? Your
Okay.
yes. Okay, I noticed you're creating the workspace in
Yes.
the One Lake catalog. Yeah.
Okay. It is. Yeah.
Yes. So
No. So we are viewing the One Lake catalog. I am just only trying to create a workspace.
okay, because I saw the One Lake catalog highlighted, so I was wondering.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So what just happened was that, so I was on this page and then I went ahead and clicked on workspace. So one thing I can
Okay.
easily just do is navigate to probably my workspace, right? And still go ahead and say I want to create a workspace. So it's just an overlay. It's
Okay,
just a
okay,
modal
okay. I was
sitting
wondering.
on top
Okay.
of anything. Exactly.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Yes. This one. Okay, 600. Okay, so I was going to show us how to create a fabric um, um, capacity. But take note that not everybody can create it if you do not have the right license, right? The right license, you cannot create a Microsoft Fabric capacity, for instance. So you search for it, you come and you click on the create, right? So this is not supported because the current subscriptions I have does not support creating a Microsoft Fabric. But if you are curious to know how do you create it, simply following this process. So when you click on the create, you put in the information of the capacity. Remember that I showed us on the different types of capacity that we have. So you have the ability to select which one. So you want the F64, F32, you select, put in all the other informations, and once you click on create, in few minutes, it goes, it spin up, it sets up that capacity. And then when you come back to Microsoft Fabric interface, you would notice that this option would be enabled. It will look similar to this. So it means you can select it. It won't be grayed out. You can select that as an option and leverage on that fabric capacity, right, for your workspace. But in this case, we are currently making use of the fabric trial, and you can see it is turned on because it is activated. So I'll click on this. We want to make this workspace a fabric workspace. So that has been created. So it's asking about some other details. So there are different zones and environments, right? By default, this plant is hosted in West Europe. So it will be creating this trial in West Europe. And this is just talking about the different storage mode. This small. So in case you want to do heavy data workload, right, you can choose the large semantic model storage format. And so that's about it for now in terms of the information we need to input for creating a workspace. So as you can see, we've successfully created our workspace. We come here, we can see it has been added here. You can decide to pin it. You can also, right, so yeah. Okay, so that's that. When we come to the workspace settings, I'll just quickly, in a few minutes, just explain what we can do here. So we can just give it a few seconds here. So you can see we can upload, we can make changes, we can modify the domain, and so on and so forth. We can add more users here, right? Amy, right? You can add users, so on and so forth. The workspace type. So if you want to come and change the workspace type, which is choosing the licensing that you want, so you want to switch this back to Power BI for whatever reason, or any other type of license, you can change that here. And have the Azure connections. If you want to do integration with Git for version control, you have the ability to use Azure DevOps or GitHub, right? This is on encryption. And then there are some granular settings that you have, for within the Power BI workspace, right? One lake settings and so on and so forth. So we can also explore all this once we set up our workspace. If you have any questions, you can always ask that subsequently, and the responses will be provided. So this is the way a default workspace look like. So in this area, you have like a task flow interface where you can select a predefined task flow. Now, what this done is it helps set up, it's like a blueprint that is available for you to quickly use to build pipelines, work a lot with pipelines. So based on the different designations that we've talked about, data teams, right? So you can see the data engineering, data factory, and so on and so forth. There are some pre-designed task flows, general, basic, and so on and so forth, the medallion, events, and so on, right? All these are different as you see, as we are switching in between them. You can see that the charts are changing, right? So you can use this as a boilerplate to set up a pipeline. So that's one of this. And if you go ahead and create any item, right, you would find that item display here. You can also minimize the task flow and just have the full experience here. If you want to manage users, you can manage users here. So you can come, add more people, right, to your workspace. One very important thing is the roles and permission that exist within your Power BI workspace. There are 4 major roles that we have. We have the admin. So every workspace owner is by default an admin. You can do all related activities within your workspace as an admin. As for member, you have some restricted, you can add, you can update, but you can't delete. Contributor majorly is to do some contributions so they can collaborate, right? They can view, they can interact, and viewer has just only view only access to all the artifacts that you have within that workspace. So for this user now, I'm adding this user as a member, and I click on add. And I already provisioned that user access to this workspace. So if the user logs in, is now able to see this DAISI DP600 workspace, and then he can work within that environment. Okay, so let's switch back to our slide and quickly look at the second half before we look at the last demo around it for the day. So we have seen how to set up a workspace. We have considered how to set up a fabric capacity, how to set up our fabric tenants, right? The different rules that exist. Now, let's see how we can create items within Microsoft Fabric Workspace. So there's something fundamental that we need to understand, and which is Lakehouse. Lakehouse is an advanced data tool or data solution that has been around for some years now. It's a word almost related to modern data stack or modern data analytics, where we are combining the power of data lake and the powers of a data warehouse together, fused together to form a lake house. So it means that you can carry out data lake activities, right, against that lake house. You can also carry out data warehouse SQL-based activities, right, against that same lake house. So as you can see here, a data lake has the ability to scale very easily. It uses a distributed file storage. So it means if you have a file, maybe a packet file, a CSV file of say 1 gig, 2 gig, you do not even need to worry about transforming that data and loading it into a database. All you need to do is just move that data into your lakehouse and it becomes available. Once you convert it into a data lake, available for query or for interaction, right? It has a flexible schema an unread semantic, meaning that, as I said, it's a file. So immediately you access that file, you can begin to engage and interact with it. Then it uses big data technology and is compatible with any big data technology infrastructure. So say you have another data lake, so for example, Databricks, right? You can, the file you create within your data lake can be used within those environments, as long as there's a big data technology. And data warehouse, this gives you the capabilities of SQL. So you have your relational schema and modeling available, meaning that you can create relationship, your joins, right, or relationships between your table, your dimensional table, your fact tables, your link tables. You can create all of that using SQL, right? You can do SQL-based querying, and then this gives you reporting and analytic capabilities. So the combination of these tools makes the Lakehouse. So we will see how to set up the Fabric Lakehouse during the demo. So you see the environment, we've already seen this seamless experience in Fabric, right? We'll consider what it takes for us to create the Fabric Lakehouse. Once you go ahead and you create that item, right, it gives you this experience. When you launch into the experience of the Lakehouse, it gives you something similar to this, where on the left-hand side, you can see the Explorer. Within the Explorer, there are two parent folders. There's the tables and there's the file. You ingest a file, right? When you ingest that file into your Lakehouse, you only just need to do a one-step click to convert that file into a compatible Lakehouse table, which you can query. You also see how we can get to do that, but it's as simple as that. And then with that simple process, you can write Python scripts, PySparks, SQL queries, right? Data, real-time custom query language scripts against that source file, against that table, right? So all those rich capabilities are available on Lakehouse. So unlike the process that you would usually take to say, oh, I need to first find a way of writing this, converting this, writing a huge query, it will run it in batches, start inserting it into a database. All that is gone, except if it's needed. If it is for analytic workload, one of the best and easiest way is if you have the data exported, right, you can easily just have it imported into your Lakehouse, and then by all means, analyze and query against your Delta tables. Okay, so this is the interface of the SQL endpoint. So a Lakehouse is a storage layer, is the infrastructure that we have to store file and ensure that we're able to interact with the file. But there is also that automatically generated SQL analytic endpoint that ensures we can also write SQL queries. So we're writing SQL query against a file, right? Against a file, because that technology is rich enough to operate either as an SQL database or simply as a file that you can write scripts against. So those are the rich capabilities within a Lakehouse. And then you can see, the details about the Lakehouse. You can see how you can visualize it. And in fact, you can even build a semantic model easily, directly on top of that file and report on it. So your file, your semantic model, your reporting layer, you can do that. Or you want to do it, your file, right? You write your SQL queries, you can move that to a temporary data warehouse, and then do your semantic models on top of that and build your reports. So you have the ability to do all of that within Microsoft Fabric. So let's look at one very important part is, so how do we get data into the Lakehouse? How do we load data? There are four major ways we can ingest data. Number one is using notebooks. So notebooks is part of the data engineering capabilities where you can leverage on PySpark, Scala, right, or Python, right, to ingest data, right, and that those data will be stored within your Lakehouse. You also have the data flow Gen 2, and this simply means the capabilities of using Power Query online. We will see how that works, right? Power Query online is simply a graphical user interface where you are able to interact graphically. You don't really need to write codes. So if you're somebody coming from the Power BI side, right, and you've been used to probably just writing DAX or be used to Power Query, as the case may be, you can also just use data flow, right? You can use data flow. So there is provision for those who are heavy on the script writing part, right? Those who prefer to just use the graphical user interface, right? You can leverage. There's provisions for you, right? So data flow meets that criteria. You have pipelines, right? So this is where you're able to combine different components, maybe the copy components, the transform components within my Microsoft Fabric to build the pipeline. So you can use pipelines to also ingest data. You know, you ingest, you transform, and then you store it inside the Lakehouse. And the last but not the least is shortcuts. So what this capability allows for is that instead of always moving files around, so probably the source file you want to engage is stored in a Microsoft S3 bucket or in an Azure blob storage, right? Or in Google cloud storage, for example, a 1 gig, 2 gig, 10 gig file. Instead of you having to copy it over, you can simply create a shortcut link, meaning the data is still stored on that source system, but it becomes available through a shortcut within your Fabric Lakehouse. And then you can run queries against it, and instantaneously, very quickly, is running against that source, right? So that is also one of the capabilities we have for loading data into Lakehouse. So let's look at some of the ETL processes that we have within Lakehouse, right? So how do we explore, transform, visualize, right? So you have the Apache Spark. This falls under the data engineering capabilities, right? Where you are essentially using notebooks or Spark job definitions, right? To interact, explore, transform your data, right? Then you also have the SQL analytic endpoint, which is what I was discussing, that becomes automatically available for you to write SQL queries, right, against your data or your Delta table within your Lakehouse. We also have data flow Gen 2, also known as Power Query Online, to build your pipelines, do your transformations, and load your data. And last but not the least, the data pipelines. So all these fall under the extract, explore, transform process. Then for the visualization, leverage on the semantic model and Power BI. Right? So all these are things you can do within your workspace, and it gets you from get data to visualize data. Okay, so we'll come back to this recap. Let's quickly move on to the Gen 2. So the data flow Gen 2 interface looks similar to this. So if you are familiar with Power Query, either on Power BI or on Excel, then this environment should not look strange, right? So this is a local graphical environment that you can use for ETL activities, right? So ETL means extract, transform, load. So you extract data, you connect to source, right? So there are currently about 300 different transformations within Power Query. There are over 100 different types of data sources, all right, that you can collect Power Query to. So you can go connect to those sources, make use of the over 300 different transformations, transform your data. Once you do that, you go ahead and then you load the data, either to your Lakehouse, to a model, and so on and so forth. So you can see the flow sequentially, within the pipeline area within Power Query. So you can use that. And as on the left-hand side, you are seeing all the different steps that you are taking. And then you are seeing the different queries or tables that you are loading within your Power Query environment or your data flow Gen 2 environment. So what is the benefits of the Gen 2? Right, the benefits is it helps with self-service capabilities. Users, so the barrier to enter or to entry is very low, right? Yeah, so it means we want to understand how to click here, drag and drop, or just select and so on, type, you are good to go, right? It helps to optimize performance with data flow, which enables extracting data once and reusing, right? So you can just go, you build that pipeline, you extract your data, you transform it, you add a scheduled refresh, and you are good to go, right? It simplifies data source complexity by only exposing, data flows to larger analyst group, and then it ensures consistencies and qualities of data by enabling users to clean and transform data. So some of the limitations is that data flows aren't a replacement for your data warehouse. So what this simply means is that it's just a tool for transformation. It's not a tool for storage. You would always need a data warehouse or a lakehouse, as the case may be, for storage. So after you're done with the transformation, you need to store it somewhere. Then RLS, role level security, isn't supported, right? And then it requires a fabric capacity workspace. So those are the requirements for a data flow 2. And this is just a high level area representations. I mean, in terms of the different pins that we have within the data flow Gen 2, we have the Power Query ribbon, right? Number one. So this is where you have the different types of the transformations. You can select. Number two is the query pane. You have different queries. Number three is the diagram view. You can see the diagram in a graphical way. The data view, this is where you see your data. And then the last one is the query settings page. So all the different steps that are taken, they are all recorded. It's not like Excel, that if you do this, do that, everything is lost, except you're using macros, right? Everything is lost. If you want to do it, you have to do it one more time. But this one, every single transformations that you are taking is recorded. You can see it's recorded here. It's recorded here. So if you even want to go and undo, you can cancel or delete. But the beauty of this is that it's recorded and saved. So every day as data is coming in, that same process is being run, right? So you do not need to repeat that process all over. It follows that process, it transforms the data, and it stores it. So that's the beauty of Power Query and also the data flow generation. So the integration looks like you can copy data, you can incorporate the data flow, you can add a notebook, you can get metadata, and you can also execute scripts or stored procedures. So those are the different things that you can do within. Sorry, my Excel just crashed. Just give me a second. Let me launch that one more time. So okay, so I think that rounds off the slide. Let's quickly look at the practical session before we take in questions for the day. So we are back to Power BI or Fabric, the experience. And for this demo, part of the links has been shared. I'll be making use of a file that we can access on this link. So it's a CSV file. I've downloaded it. We can also just share the file, right? So let's look at what that file looks like. It's so this is a file that contains sales data. So as we can see here, right, we have the sales order number, we have the sales line number, we have the order dates, the customer name, the email address, the item, the quantity, the unit price, and the tax amount, right? So this is the data we want to leverage on for this demo.
Sorry. Sorry,
Yes.
Mr. Paul. Rashid has a question. Rashid, go on.
Okay, let's go ahead.
So sir, we have 18 minutes so that we can prepare for the next session by 4. We normally leave 10 minutes interval so that the speakers can set up before the class. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. So
Okay.
I will just
While we're here, I think we need to set up for each group. We need to set up a WhatsApp group so that we can post some of these links on it and interact. What do you think, Mr. Paul?
Yes, I think we need to do that. So in case anybody also having any issues with setting up
This is an it is an
public
8 days
instance.
journey. Since it is an 8-week journey, we can do that, especially for those that are important, that fabric is important to they go to their fabric unit. So we do that after the course.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
first, because the chat room is not available. So we need a place where they can post their numbers so we can set up a chat, a WhatsApp chat group. Yeah.
Okay, we'll look at that.
Okay, please go on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback and the plans. So yes, before we round off in the next few minutes, I'll just guide us through on how to create a lakehouse. So when you click on new item within your workspace, so you navigate to your workspace, you click on new item, you will see. Yes,
sorry,
please.
sir. Sorry, sir. If possible, you can give an assignment that people can run with before next class to show that they truly understand what you have taught us. I think that makes sense.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. So we would, once you navigate to the all items, right, you would see different types of items that we can create within the Microsoft Fabric environment. I'm going to collapse this so that we can look at on a high level the categories. So we have items for visualized data, right? Where you can create dashboards, graph instances, and so on and so forth. You have the get data, right? So the data flow gen 2 that we talked about, how we can utilize this. We have notebook pipelines, how to store data, and so on and so forth, right? So we can explore all this, right, at our leisure. There are also some sample data. Let me try and search here for sample. So we can see different samples. So there's a sample lakehouse. So you can attempt that in case you don't have any data to explore, or you want to play around with the sample, you can come here, search for it, and then you would see what is there. But for us, we want to just create a lakehouse. So let's search for a lakehouse. Yeah, so let's click on this. So it's asking us what is the name of the lakehouse. We're calling this sales because of the data that we have, lakehouse. Sales lakehouse. And we want it to have a schema, so it's fine. The location is within this workspace. That also works for us. So let's go ahead and create. And what you will see happen is that in a few seconds, we have a lakehouse created for us, meaning that we have the ability, once it has been fully set up, to upload our data or build whatever type of pipeline that we want to get data into this lakehouse, right? So as you can see on the left hand, we have our Explorer. You can see our lakehouse. So I explained we have the table section, we have the file section. When you upload a file, is stored here. So let's go ahead and see how we can upload the file. Remember, we have a CSV file. So we are going to try and navigate to that file. Here, sales. Click on open, right? And then we are going to click on upload. Upload. So in a few seconds, we will see this file fully uploaded successfully. That is nice. So I'm going to close out on this. I'm going to try and refresh, right? I'll click on refresh here. And then, okay, I think we need to refresh the whole page. Let's refresh the whole
So
page.
sorry, so the data set, where would you drop that?
We would also drop it in the WhatsApp group. We will add the file in the WhatsApp group or the
Oh,
link
okay,
to
okay.
download.
Maybe what you could do, if you could send it to me, then later I'll send it to
Okay,
the group
that's
once
fine.
it's set up. Thank you.
That's fine. Yes. So as you can see, the file is now visible here. I just did a refresh on my browser. I can see the file, right? Then there's the option here to load to table. Take note, when you upload a file, it has the ability to store files. But for us to be able to interact with that file, we need to load that file as a table. What that load to table means is that it would convert that file to a Lakehouse format. It called Delta. So Delta is one of the formats of a Lakehouse. There are different types of format. There's a Varo, there's Delta, there's different types, right? But within the Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse environment, we use Delta. So if I go ahead and say load table into a new table, it's asking me which schema do I want to use. So there's already a default schema here. So I choose that DBO, and then the name of the table, sales, which is what is that file, is fine for me. It's going to use headers for column names. So the first row, it will use that as header. And because it's a comma separated, it has automatically identified that it's comma. So because it's a sales with comma separated. So once I click on load, it will create the seconds. So let's try this one more time. Okay, let's investigate what the problem is here. Let me go ahead and refresh this one more time. Okay. So I will try another approach. Let me upload the file one more time. Yeah, overwrite. Okay. So I'm currently viewing the data. It's a CSV file. I'm viewing it first one as header. Yes. And this is the table view of the data. So, okay, let me get out of this. I think it's with the loading experience. I will launch. Okay, so let's launch the stuff one more time. So my system is showing. So let me try this one more time. Hopefully it goes. Sometimes they move into new table, sales, yes. Okay, so I will investigate what this is, but I will switch to a workspace that I have initially created. Okay, so this is Okay, so when you upload a file into your Lakehouse, I expect it to create a folder similar to this, right? So you would see this folder, as you can see here, you have different types of files within your workspace, right? Within your Lakehouse, you can see different files. So these are different CSV files that you can upgrade also. So if I click on this guy, this is a CSV file, right? These are package files. You can see the package. This is also another CSV file. So I can decide to come here and say, load this, right? And load the data. And as you can see, it's currently loading that data. Okay, I think I have a feeling on what might have gone wrong with this. Let's give it another shot. So I'll be creating a different type of Lakehouse this time, but I won't use the Lakehouse schema. And the issue is with the Lakehouse schema. So I call this sales Lakehouse 1. So we create this. So sometimes you come across a few issues, but let's see how we can navigate those issues. So I'm going to get data. I'm uploading my CSV file. Yes, I have this. Okay, let me just get my files afresh. So I click on open. I click on upload. Okay, so we have this. As you can see, unlike the previous Lakehouse that we created, because we ticked the button to set up a schema, right? We were having that issue. So I have set up this particular Lakehouse to not have a schema. So let's go ahead and load the table into a new table. So we can see the experience, sales. So we are still having the same issue. It's fine. So I think I'll need to investigate why that is. But by default, we shouldn't have the issue. We should just be able to click on load data, right? And then it will load it to the table. We can have it as a delta table. So how do we know this is a delta table? When you see this triangle, right? This is showcasing that this particular table is a delta table. As you can see, this one that I processed, I clicked on load to table. You can see it's now available here. The same experience is what we were expecting to see there. So if I come here also and I say load this to a table, I click on new table and I click on load, right? It loads that table as a delta table, right? And when I click on this table, I can see the data as involved. Now, this is what gives us the capabilities to do additional massaging of the data, explorations, transformations, right? Remember, I said within a Lakehouse, we have the ability to interact with the data using a notebook, right? So for advanced ETL processes where you want to use Spark or Python, you can come here, create a new workbook. For the sake of SQL, when you want to use TSQL, you can use the SQL Analytic Endpoint. And if you want to use the Cusco Query Language, KQL, for real-time streaming, you can also go ahead and set this up. For this demo, before I round off, we will just make use of the SQL Analytic Endpoints. So I'm going to click on this. And as you can see, the experience has slightly changed, right? So now we are within the Explorer environment of a warehouse, not a lake house. So this is the experience that gives us the ability to write queries. As you can see, click on new SQL query. And then for the data I'm trying to explore, right, let me click on this, click on DBO, expand on the tables, you can now see all those two tables that we imported, the US population, the city safety Seattle, right? You can see them appear here. So I can click it to quickly explore the first 1,000 records, right? So, okay, properties. Okay, you can see that. We can also click on this guy also to see the data. Fantastic. So let's write a simple SQL query. Let's write a simple SQL query against this city. So I'm going to, you can also make use of some helper functions here, like new SQL query, select top 10,000. So this actually just pulls out the query for me. I'm looking at the first 100 records. So I can come here and say where the subcategory. So let's use the bucket. So category is not there. It's not right. So let's run this. So all the records within the subcategory is null. That's why we are not getting any record. So let's try another query here. Run this again. So let's just see where the data type, is the data type any difference. Okay, so I can do something. I want to see the distinct. Select distinct data type. So I comment this now, run the query. Select this. Okay, so we have only safety there in the data, right? So, but you get the gist. What we are doing is we are currently running queries against this data source, right? So we can essentially write SQL queries to fine-tune, explore the data, as the case may be, and then we can use the information we get from this query to build additional artifacts. So it's already 3:50. I'll round off here. We'll spend a bit of time around this in the next class. I will have figured out what the issue is with that data so that we can use that file. I have some scripts already prepared for us to use to query that data so we can explore. And then we'll look into the data flow gen 2 and then proceed to how to create additional pipelines within the Lakehouse. So thank you everyone for your attention, for your participation, for the questions. We are rounding off now. If you have any questions, please by all means, you can raise up your hands or just listen here and we'll answer them. Thank you. See you same time next week. So we would continue from where we stopped next week, Saturday. So do well to join us and have a good day. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barnabas. Can we have some emojis for him? Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate you. Yeah. All right. So I hope you learned so much like I did. Yeah. We'll see you all next week, same time. Okay. A WhatsApp group will be set up for us so that we can interact. Yeah,
and Franca, you can give them your Franca, dictate your own number to them so that they can chat you off to enable you add them to the WhatsApp group for DP600 alone. So our assignment, our projects, everything, if this facilitator want to communicate directly, he can reach out to us directly. I think that works. Okay.
Okay, I'll you can take down my number then and just send me a message or yeah. My number is 0803 400 7466. Did you get the number? 0803 400 7466. Okay, Mr. Barnabas, I'll appreciate if you can send me the link so I can forward it to them. Yeah, the links you shared.
Sure, that's fine. You will get
Okay.
them in a few seconds. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. All right then. So see you all next week, Saturday, from about 2 p.m. same time. All right. Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you very
Okay,
much,
bye.
Mr. Barnabas. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get the number? Did you get my number? Moses Olatubosun.
No, I didn't. I'm
It's
trying to.
0803 400
Okay.
7466.
7466.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so you could just chat, send me a chat that you're in the DAISI DP600 class. So we can set up a WhatsApp group for us. All right then. Bye.
Whatever is
Subin. Hello, Subin. Did you get my number? Hello, Subin. Can you hear me? Subin? Olufemi, the class has just ended. So
Okay. All right, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
yeah, but we have another class next week. Same class. What class are you interested in? Is it the DP600?
Oh, it's Power BI. I was actually following the Power BI. So
Okay, this is not the Power BI class. Check the link for the Power BI class. Okay.
all right.
Yeah, this is the DP600 class. Power BI
Okay.
is LPL 300.
Okay. I will.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Subin, did you get my number? So you can send me chat. Subin, you can unmute and speak.